yours, areas of expertise. But I hope I'm going to be sharing something interesting to you this evening. And this is basically a talk that I'm giving for the third time. And I kind of slightly changed a bit my slides. But you know, you see the title is a bit particular. It's the story you don't read. This means if you probably Google my name, you can easily find my biography. You can find a lot of information about my work, my research, my teaching, my articles in the newspapers, and these type of things. I kind of I came up with the idea of this talk because after many years of working in academia, basically 2018 was a bit of a turning point for me. A turning point because I was listed in the top 40 under 40 of business professors in the world, and that was a kind of a bit of a game changer for me as an academic. And I also basically following that received a number of interesting awards. I was nominated Knight by the President of the Italian Republic for the impact of my scientific work. And more recently, I was listed as one of the top Italian talents in this country because of my support to Italian and British relations. So basically what happened is that when you kind of win these type of awards, or when you get these recognitions, you get approached by journalists who want to kind of share your story, articles in the newspaper and all that. And the kind of the classic question that you receive is, how did you get there? How do you enter the top 40 under 40? What is your secret? What is your talent and all that? And of course, it's not an easy answer, and that's when really I started kind of reflecting a bit on my journey. So what I'm going to do with you this evening is to share basically the story you don't read. So kind of some very personal reflections on what has been my journey and basically what led to what I'm doing today, and to what I kind of like in life, what I try to achieve in life, and really a mix of reflections for personal and professional development, if you want. Now, it's a kind of hard to reflect on 38 years. So I had to make decisions and face the number of trade-offs. So I selected the specific moments or specific experiences that I believe truly impacted my life, and particularly my professional life. So I'm going to share with you some of these moments. And I believe it's kind of, for me, in a way, mandatory to start with the very first meeting that took place exactly 30 years ago for me. And basically, the person that you see in the slide is my father. My father was an academic, is an academic. He basically retired a few years ago. He's a professor in chemistry. And there was a kind of something that is kind of really captured my attention when I was a kid. And it was the fact that during night, so probably I was, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years old, can you define that? I was waking up, and I basically was jumping from my bed, running to the room of my parents, and always finding the light of my father basically on, because it was working. And that was kind of something, of course, I couldn't really understand at the time. My father had a really brilliant career as an academic, as a scientist in particular. Very different career from mine. I believe when I approached academia or business, my idea was to basically be successful, to make a lot of money. I was coming from a very different perspective from his approach to an academic career. But something that I kind of realized with time is that I basically realized what was driving him to work so hard was a real passion for his work. He was truly in love with his work. And that's very often the case with scientists. When you do research, you can't really work 9 to 5. When you do research, you set your own objectives. When you do research, you try to change the world. And that passion is not necessarily something that you see everywhere, every day in people. So that was is an observation I made with over time. And then, of course, when you're young, you fight with your parents. So I believe for 23 years, I teach my father that I was not going to become an academic. And I was basically giving him a very sound arguments about why I didn't want to be an academic. And then, of course, I turned to be an academic, which is kind of an interesting story. There is another observation that I really built over time, and this observation is something I truly believe, but actually there is a science supporting that. And basically is the observation that, let me change the slide, let me try this way, is that talent is overrated. And it is a very interesting book. You should have a look at it. It was published a number of years ago. And basically, what is proving, and is based on science and research, is that successful people not only have talent, but they work very hard. So this is when you are in successful positions, people believe that you have talent. They often forget that you need to work very hard. I think that's an important part of the story. I always tell colleagues or students, when you compare, for example, the research impact of professors, and you see that someone has got the double of publications of someone else, there could be two explanations. One is that he's particularly talented to write articles. The second one is that actually he's working harder and producing more. And I truly believe that this combination is quite important. And again, it's something in a way I really learned from my father. I'm gonna jump basically to 1999. So basically I'm jumping 17 years. Basically so my father was a professor, my mother was a lecturer as well in the high school. So not a rich family, just to be clear. But I basically grew up in a family where education was particularly valued. So at that point, my parents invested a lot of money to send me a summer in the States, in a very prestigious school. Cushing Academy is probably still today in the top 5 in the US for summer school programs. And it was a very selective environment. It was a summer school with 230 people, restrictions by country, only 11 Italians were allowed at the time. Just to give you an idea, I was the only one not rich. So the people I met there from Italy, just to give you surnames from the Italians, were members of the Visconti family, members of the Medici family from Florence. I mean, I was really out of context. But something that I realized, and this was for me the very first time to be abroad, the very first time to meet so many international people, was that these kids at the age of 16, 17, 14, 15, they had absolutely clear ideas about what they wanted in life. So I was meeting people, kids, age 16, that were telling me, oh, I'm going to be studying business administration, my goal is to work for Microsoft, blah, blah. I had no clue about that. So I came back from these 6 weeks, shocked, completely transformed, but with an American dream. Because basically, I wasn't able in 6 weeks to realize what I wanted to do in life. But basically something was very clear. I wanted to be in that kind of environment, so I want to move to the US. And basically I went back and I said to my parents, I wanted to study in the US. And basically at that time I was about to start the 4th year of high school, so 2 years left. And basically I said, you know what, I'm not gonna wait, I need to rush. So basically I looked at the system and found a way to basically to do 2 years in one, and managed to do the 4th and 5th year together, combined, working very hard, because the objective was to basically move to the US and study business in the US. I think, you know, this story for me upon reflection is really about the value of exposure, which is paramount. And something I do today is I really like to learn about very different things. And this is one of the reasons why today I'm in the advisory board of several organizations. In some cases, I'm paid. In some cases, purely pro bono, just interested in what they do. And it's really, for me, kind of a learning opportunity, learning moment, and exposure. There is another point, which is, I think, is important. I'm going to touch on this a couple of times, is that ambition, in a way, is the first step to success. But you need action. Otherwise, you know, there is no way you're going to be able to, you know, realize your dreams. And we're going to touch on this a couple of times. A few years later, so now I'm jumping into 2005. So at this point, I'm in this country because I did the Erasmus in this country. I'm graduating from mechanical engineering because I decided that I wanted that type of a quantitative education before moving into business. And my plan was to study an MBA, not really to study a PhD. And at a certain point, I received a call that truly changed my life forever. And it was a call from a professor from my hometown. His name is Piero. And he, at that time, was a super successful professor. Very young, probably around 30 at that point. And basically was leading already a big research group. He had 5 consulting firms in the fields of strategy and business and IT. And basically, he was every year looking for talent. And this approach was absolutely basic. Basically, he was every year asking the local university to give him the list of the people graduating with a distinction, with the 110 lode, and from the School of Engineering and the School of Economics. And basically, was phoning all these people, calling them for an interview, and was hiring those he liked. So I was graduating with maximum votes, and I received a call, invited by this professor I never met, and he knew a bit about me because he kind of gathered a bit of information, and basically he offered me the following. He said, you know, Paolo, I know that you have a bit of international experience. I understand you wanted to study business. I'm going to offer you a package for 3 years. You're going to do a PhD with me. You're going to study an MBA part-time, because I'm the director of an MBA. And on the top of that, I will give you the opportunity to make extra money, because you're going to work on consulting projects in my consulting firms. And that was an interesting package. And basically I said, okay, I'm up for it, but I want I'm going to put the fourth condition. The fourth condition is I wanted to spend at least a year abroad in a top university, because if I do a PhD, I recognize that today education comes with a brand. So if you want to kind of develop an academic career, you need a top institution in your city. And basically said, you know, Paolo, I'm fine with this, but to be honest, I don't really have connections in top universities. So you will need to arrange it by yourself. And at that point I said, okay, fine, I'm going to arrange it by myself, but this is the plan. Now, Piero is the most talented person I met in life. Piero is a brilliant entrepreneur, brilliant manager, brilliant academic. 80% of what I learned professionally, I learned it from him. So it was really, a turning point. Something that was really unique about Piero is that he's a dreamer. And something that shocked me at the time was that every single project we were working on, his ambition for these projects was rocket sky. So it was 80% of the times it was completely unreal. He was setting objectives that were completely unreal. And that's kind of when I realized that actually dreaming in life in a way is allowed, or dreaming can actually help you to achieve certain things or to score higher than where you typically would score. This is a kind of to say that, and I'm gonna mention three. So I mentioned my father, I mentioned Piero, I'm gonna mention a third person. In life, you meet people that are gonna change your career. You're gonna meet people that are gonna give you opportunities, people you're gonna learn from, people you basically will inspire you every day when they are with you. I think it's kind of important to find them, and you need to be a bit proactive in terms of looking for these type of people that can really inspire you.
Yet he found you.
Sorry?
He found you.
He found me, but I found the other one, this person. So out of the three, I found basically my father found me, Piero found me, this guy, I found him. And I'm jumping to 2007. So 2007 is basically the second year of my PhD, and that's when I said, Piero, okay, now is the right time for me to go abroad. And at the time, I was working on performance measurement and management, and basically I knew I wanted to basically enter the door of a top school. But he had no connections, and I had to find my own way to get there. I basically went for a very, I would say, basic engineered approach. This means basically I took the list of top 50 business schools in the Financial Times, went on the websites of all these schools, looked for professors who were working on performance measurement and management, identified all the people, and basically sent mass email to basically all of these professors around the world saying, my name is Paolo Taticchi, I'm doing research in this field. I would like to get the opportunity to work with you, and I don't want to be paid, I just want you to give me an opportunity. I'm a nice guy. Basically, I remember that I sent something like 70 plus emails, and not many answers came back. And in fact, actually 2 came back out of 70 plus. The first one was the China European International Business School in Shanghai, top university. The second one was Stern School of Business at New York University, this man, Professor Balachandra. And basically, I saw an opportunity to kind of in a way realize my American dream. I said, okay, I'm not gonna go to Shanghai. I'm gonna move to New York. And that's basically what I did. I was genuinely lucky because I believe at that time I didn't realize how famous was this professor. And basically this professor, when I met him, was at the very end of his career. He was basically about to retire. In fact, I was his last scholar at NYU. And basically, for 6 months, I really worked my ass to impress him. Worked really, really hard. And then basically something happened that was completely unexpected. This man was basically invited by top universities in the world every year to offer speeches. So something like 50 invitations from top universities, paid a lot of money just to speak for a couple of hours. Of course, he was about to retire. He was selective about where he wanted to go. So basically, what happened is that he started making my name. So when he was receiving an invitation and he didn't want to go, he was saying, I cannot come, but why don't you invite Paolo Taticchi? He's a young scholar, he's a smart guy, you should get him. So that basically opened an incredible opportunity for me. At the age of 26, 27, I started teaching in Taiwan, in China, in India, in Hawaii, in many, many places around the world. And in fact, one of the unique aspects that you read in my biography that really allowed me to enter in the top 40 and the 40 is the fact that today I have taught full modules in 14 countries. So if you start counting, to identify 14 countries, it takes a bit of time. And this is basically really something I honed here, but at the same time, everywhere where I went, I made an effort to build the relationships. So you don't just go and come back. You go and you try to build something wherever you go. So this is basically to say that when I look back at this, I believe that yes, I was lucky, but in a way, I also created my own luck because the way I approached this was, basically putting me in the position to have opportunities, to be lucky. This is a quote I really like. And I try to basically share it with my students every single time I teach. The quote is, if you aim for the moon, worst case, if you miss the moon, you made the star. And this is basically to say that, I could have applied for any kind of international university around the world. I didn't apply to the top schools randomly. I basically started with the top 50, starting from the first one. Because I don't want to live with the regret that I could have worked somewhere or experienced something and I never tried. So you need to be ambitious. When you apply for jobs, I always tell my students, you want to work in consulting, fantastic, or you want to work in tech, fantastic. Don't go for the shitty company and lose the time in these applications. First, try with all the tech giants. Then, as soon as they didn't give you a job, you can basically move on in the list. But first you try to hit the moon, and then worst case scenario you end up somewhere else. So this is basically something that I believe is part of my mindset today. And this is also to say something. Great things never come from comfort zones. So when I basically when I was studying my PhD, I was in management engineering in Italy, and Professor Balachandran was in an accounting department. This means I was going into an environment which was completely different from the one I used to experience every day in Italy. So I'm not going to deny that for the first 2-3 months, I was not even able to talk to people in the department because their language, their knowledge was completely different from mine. So again, you don't want to be in the comfort zone. At times, opportunities are not there. This is the second call that changed my life forever again. And this is basically November 2007. Basically, the call was from a friend telling me that Piero died in a tragic car accident. And he died at the age of 34. And at that time, not only was the most smart person I ever met in life, but at that point was a very good friend. So it's a bit hard to share this with words, but when you lose not only someone who is truly inspiring to you, but when you lose a friend, at that point you start singing a lot. basically at that point, really something came to my mind. Basically, this was what if, at that point, I have 9 years left in my life? Because I could die at the age of 34. So this question about what I want to be, what I want to do, what kind of impact I wanted to make in the next 9 years became an obsession. I'm not going to deny, it's still an obsession for me. That's basically when I first came up with an idea. Because again, there was something that was really uncomfortable to me. This person that for me was really meaning a lot, I knew that after a few months would have been forgotten by everybody. And I was so upset about this idea, that everybody would have forgotten about it at the University of Perugia. Which, by the way, happened. So basically, I kind of, I basically decided I wanted to do something big to remembering. And I wanted to do basically something big with this name on it. And because I was just back from the US, I basically said, okay, you know what, I have an idea. I'm going to organize the first international summer school of the University of Perugia in New York.